How do you feel when you see somebody doing something cool, running, building something, just putting themselves out there in some way? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. How do you feel, and like, what is your reaction? What I notice is sometimes there's inspiration and sometimes there's irritation, a bit of dismissal. I might think things like, they look miserable, or that's not for me, or why would you even do that? We're human, right? And we're hardwired to assess situations and others. But sometimes we can allow that runaway wiring to influence our own decisions. And you know, this can end up with us making quite murky decisions at that. Let me give you an example. For years, I would see people running past my window, my kitchen window, and part of me would be like, yeah, go on, go for it. Feeling inspired and full of encouragement. And then I'd also have a part of me that would go, oh, they look miserable. Why would you even do that? And for me personally at the time, this is going back a few years ago, I would walk. So I would be like telling myself that walking was better, which in hindsight was probably a way of just staying exactly where I was. When something feels difficult, especially something that we've not done before, and so it's something we're not sure we can do, we've got that uncertainty. We can do a number of things, react in a number of different ways and do a number of things, but only one builds capacity and sustainability, and the others just don't do that. So we can either see the thing and move away from it, think it's not for me, nothing much changing, living the same day, avoiding something new. And avoiding it can feel comfortable in that moment, but over time, nothing really changes. And that was me with this running scenario. And then on the other end of things, we can push too hard, we go all in on something, but push too hard and burn out, and then perhaps again just tell a story, oh well, this wasn't for me, when we quit. And I've really started to notice there's a pattern to this. Too much and the body becomes overwhelmed, too little and nothing really changes. But somewhere in the middle where growth happens, and that is where we build capacity. And you'll hear me talk a lot about capacity, so I thought I'd bring this to a visual. Called it the capacity edge, where we increase our capacity or our ability to deal with the everyday happenings. That's what that middle section there represents. This is our changing nervous system, our emotional baseline, which can grow. It grows and changes and adapts as we get exposed to the everyday and learn from it, which is that upper line there. So if we look at the upper line, which is our experiences and exposure in life, and then the line below it, which is where we have rest and recovery. Both things are needed to grow capacity, increase capacity. If we go too far above it, the body gets overwhelmed, it can't adapt. At the bottom there, if we stay below it, nothing really changes. But right here in the middle, this is where the body can be challenged and still recover. And this is where capacity grows. And one of the ways that we can identify that we're at capacity's edge, where we're going to cross over into one of these zones, and there's lots, but for the purpose of this video, is when we're inspired to do something, but then we don't take action on it. So that means we've gone, there's rest and recovery, that edge there, and we've dropped below that. We're in that area of stagnation, and at the time we're thinking that's comfortable, right? But the danger or the risk of being in this area is, what I've noticed is this also grows. So over time, capacity shrinks because we're in this stagnation zone. And say, for example, you've talked yourself out of something then that we encounter in our day to day that in the past has seemed manageable becomes even less so. And I can be surprised sometimes thinking, oh, I was fine coping with this before, but I'm not now. And that's because my overall capacity, that middle, has shrunk, and this bottom area is increased. Obviously the same can happen from the top. It shrinks and squeezes our capacity if we're in either of these areas too much. So it's a fine line, pun intended. It's a fine line where we edge into new experiences, but we allow time for recovery. And that top line, that's experiences, exposure. We want a bit of that, but we don't want to go too far. And likewise at the bottom, we need that rest and recovery for our capacity to expand, but we also don't want to go too far into that, creating that super comfort zone again, because both of those squeeze that capacity, and that affects how we're able to deal with all the day-to-day encounters that we have. So having listened to this, is there any areas that you've immediately thought, oh yeah, this is something where I've been inspired to do and then I've dropped out? Curious, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And also, if you've got any questions about the diagram itself, this model, I'd love to hear those. I'm going to do lots more videos exploring these edges, because there's just, yeah, there's so many ways we can get into this. And yeah, it's been great to have you here. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. If you have enjoyed it, please drop me a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.